So today we're going to be looking at NetSkeme. And so NetSkeme was released in January 2020. We have many subsequent releases to enhance productivity, improve performance, and introduce new features, of course. It is a cloud-based schematic drawing platform. So I'm going to log into NetSkeme, and today we're going to be making a milling circuit. So I wanted to do a more industrial application. So as you can see when I open up NetSkeme, the latest drawing that I was working on opens up. So basically, if you close your tab and you relog in, it should save it on the cloud. If you do log out, though, it will get rid of your schematic. So always just close the tab and you should be safe. So I'm just going to start from this because it's blank anyways. So my size here is an A, so I'm going to change my sheet size. I need a B for this drawing. And we're just going to start with our vane pumps. So we have 2 in this schematic. And we're going to bring in our filter. Okay. Filter. And we're going to connect these. So I do have auto connect on. It is making my lines a little strange. So I'm going to adjust, and I'm just going to use the grip points and adjust these properly. And we're going to move over to our reciprocating stroke. So that'll build over here on the right side. And so we do have some model codes. So within NetSkeme, you can actually look up model codes and it'll access our fluidpowertools.com, which is an online database full of our hydraulic model codes. And it'll bring up your symbols. So we have our relief valve. And I have another one from Bifold. Whoops. It's SO9-M. And it's going to be this one. So let's make our connections. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, when you do bring in a symbol by looking it up from your model code, it's not going to bring in any data. So I'm going to add that into this one. And I'm going to hit OK. It's going to be saved. So then we're going to go up to another valve. Just JJ. Another one from Bifold. It's going to be this one. Going to make our connections. And so I am going to have some reservoirs. I'm going to add those towards the end, but I'm going to kind of leave in some tank lines. And I turn my auto connect off just so I can manually draw those lines. I believe you can make them kind of hanging as well with that on, but I just prefer to turn that off. So then we're going to have our cylinder. Whoops. And we're going to connect right here. So this cylinder is going to be, I'm going to add some text using our text command here. It's going to be for the reciprocating stroke. And I do kind of want to have that blend in with our symbols, so I'm going to make it yellow, just so it looks nice. So now we're going to move on to our second half of our schematic here. Now this one's much more complicated. So I'm going to use the same valve here. I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to flip it horizontally. And we're going to make our connection. So I did enter some data here, and when I use this copy selection here, and I bring this across, I'm going to have 2 here. But you'll notice that all of the data that I entered actually comes with these. So you'll only really have to enter it once, and that copy selection should bring all of that data with your symbols, which is very handy. So now we have an Eaton valve. I'm going to insert DG 1V4. Okay, so there's a lot of symbols here. So let's V4-012C. Okay, there it is. So we're going to bring this over here, and we're going to make our connections. So I want my port line actually closer to, or my pressure line closer to my pressure connections. Do a flip. And I'm going to bring in another cylinder. So this cylinder is going to be for the actual positioning of the workpiece itself onto the milling machine. So now I'm going to kind of insert our reservoir down here. So with this, I'm going to turn my auto connect off because I do have to kind of adjust according to my tidal lock here. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to manually create our connection line. So at every corner, I'm clicking. Oops, that's strange. Okay. So I've never seen that happen before. So we'll just adjust. And we're going to make another one from here. Whoops. Okay, so next we have a screw and cartridge valve. And it's going to be a flow control. And I'm going to flip that one vertically. And this is going to come over here. And let's bring that up. And it's going to connect here. So I am noticing a little bit of a problem here. So I'm going to move my item IDs, and you just click and you can move them over using the grip points. So next we have another bifold valve. And it's going to be this one. And we're going to bring it right here. And I'm going to turn my auto connect back on and put in our tank line. So we have quite a bit to do, but I forgot here. This is for positioning our workpiece. And I'm going to make it yellow using our color function. And this is just so that my diagram is nice and clear and about what's kind of happening with it. So I do have another flow control. So I do use this copy selection very often within NetSkeme, and it is very powerful. Like I said, it'll bring in all of your data, and down the line, that's actually going to be really helpful. So I'll show you when we make our parts list actually that is really handy, and it'll actually make your parts list a lot clearer. So I'm gonna flip this horizontally, and we're gonna make our connection. And we have our tank. So I do want to move this over, and our connection lines should adjust. I am just using the arrow keys to move over our symbols, but they should adjust properly. There is some work being done with those connection lines currently. So that routing algorithm with this auto connect should be improving. So I'm gonna connect here. And this one is going to go to a tank. We do want to adjust this. So now I'm going to have our pilot lines through here. And it is kind of crossing our symbols here. So I'd rather have it just there. Then our symbol is nice and easy to see. So I need this symbol again. And we're going to make our connections. So I am noticing that this is going to cause a jumper. So I'm just going to flip this horizontally. And it should automatically reroute when you do these flips and these rotates of your symbols, which is really handy. So next we have, I'm going to move this down. And this one as well. So next we have one of our vertical drills. This is actually going to be our second one. So I'm going to use a cylinder. Rotate. And we're going to make our connections. So this is our second vertical drill. I haven't put my first in yet, but we can still denote it. Oops. Vertical drill number 2. Sorry, and hit color. And I'm gonna hit OK. All right, so now we're gonna go up here and we're gonna use this to get to our first vertical drill and our forward stroke cylinder. So I am going to need 2 more cylinders. So let's do that copy selection. And let's get these rotated correctly. So we're gonna have an Eaton valve again, VG1 V4-016. I believe it's this one. Yep. Or no, this one. So we're going to make our connection to here. And this is going to be just our tank. I do want this to be vertical just because our reservoir symbols work best with these kind of vertical tank lines. So I have about 2 more symbols to put in here. They're pretty large, so let me make some room. And they are going to be an oil comp valve, so VOC 130. And it's going to be 2 of these. So let's use our copy selection and bring another one in here. So these ones, this is where the diagram is going to get a little tricky. It's going to get very crowded. So I'm actually going to make some quick adjustments here. So that way I have a little more room. So with these symbols, clicking the grip point with the snap to grid on, that's going to allow the symbols to be right on the grid. But you'll notice when I hover over, there's kind of this selection window. Just grabbing and dragging, it's not going to snap to that grid. So just something to be aware of when you're using NetSkeme. All right, so let's make our connections. So I'm going to have one here. Whoops, turned auto connect off. And similarly, this line is going to go up to our cap end. Let's make some adjustments here. So this line is going to go from here to our cap end on this drill. And I'm going to want to make some adjustments here. And we're going to have from our rod end, it's going to connect here. And this port will also similarly connect there. And we're going to have connect to our rod end. So as you can see, there's quite a few jumpers. So the best part about using, Vest's circuit creation options are these kind of easy fixes that you can do. So personally, I would flip this, and there were some adjustments I would make just so that I had some fewer jumpers. So as you can see, this now has 0 jumpers. And yeah, so then we're gonna kind of detail, and we're gonna put vertical drill number 1. And this is our forward stroke. Whoops. So to save some time, I'm going to use the match properties here. And that's going to take all of our yellow, and it's just going to quickly apply that to our other texts. So I am seeing a question. What is the major difference between NetSkeme and Hydra? So with Hydra, you are kind of working on your desktop and it's installed. You don't necessarily need internet connection, and you have a local library and everything's kind of saved to your desktop. It's also built on AutoCAD, so it has some of those AutoCAD features and it's a little more in depth. NetSkeme appears to be simpler and primarily a tool for schematic drawing with a symbol library. That's correct, yes. So NetSkeme is simpler. I think it's made more for our sales engineers, and it's on the cloud. That's another big thing about it. So now I want to add in all of my reservoirs. And I'm going to put this in the description that it is a reservoir. And similarly to the valve I had inserted earlier, doing this copy selection, it's going to carry that over. So now each and every single one of these reservoirs should have that within the description. All right. So within NetSkeme, you can also create your bill of materials automatically, and it's going to take all of that information that was included within the symbol. So simply double click, you can get this edit model, or you can kind of hover over and you can get this edit and this pop-up will appear. Now, you'll notice that these symbols that I had added prior and I had inserted their model code manufacturer, they all got grouped together. Here, it's kind of hard to see. They all got grouped together within the bill of materials. However, the reservoirs did not. So the grouping within the automatic bill of materials will actually occur based on the model code. So you'll also notice, yeah, it doesn't go based on the description. So last time I kind of showed off within our last webinar this regenerate item IDs. So I'm going to add within the model code reservoir. And now I'm going to go through, I'm going to get rid of my old reservoirs. And I'm going to, strange. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get rid of them. This is the one, yep. And now I'm going to use that copy selection again. So that way all of our data transfers over. Am I missing any? I missed one. So now I'm going to regenerate this parts list, and you'll notice they all group together. And as I pointed out in the last webinar, you'll notice that these item IDs, when I did go back and reinserted those reservoirs, they didn't increment properly. So this regenerate item ID will actually go back and it will fix those. So they'll all be from 1 to, I think, 31 symbols or so that are on this schematic. So it's very handy for when you want to kind of go back in and make edits to that data. So we can add our title here, circuit. So if you have any questions, please do type them in the chat window and I will get to them. Drawn by Frank. So I did not mention this before when I was building, but within Hydra, we currently have the ability to kind of drop a symbol and it'll split this connection line and it'll actually attach. So essentially, this would be connected and copy select, get it facing the right way. And basically you would insert this right here and it would split this connection line. Now you'll notice when I select it, that connection line is still there. So within our next update, we should be adding for at least 2 port symbols that ability to kind of split this connection line, and this symbol will actually connect properly. But for now, we have to separately make those connections. Can we, oh, wow. Okay. Can we create a personalized title block with a company logo? So currently, that is a limitation with NetSkeme. So right now we cannot, but you could bring in a title block. You could create one on AutoCAD, and you could open that DWG here in NetSkeme. There is some limitations when it comes to bringing in some AutoCAD features into NetSkeme. So not every single feature will transfer into NetSkeme perfectly, and that's something that we continue to work on. Can all of the reservoirs have the same item numbers? So with these item IDs, you can actually manually change them. So we can say A1, and I believe it doesn't, yeah, there's no problem with them having the same one. It's just that when we use this regenerate item ID, it is going to insert them by numbers. So if you have to change them manually, you'll have to do it after using this regenerate item ID. And then as you can see, our reservoir, we have A1, A1, and A1.